the Nile is finally coming out this week, and of course, the best thing was I didn't die on the Nile. I actually survived my trip. But when I watched Murder on the Orient Express, man, did I want to die on that train. What's going on, buddy? Welcome back to a brand new non-spoiler review for Death on the Nile. Now, of course, this is a murder mystery. You don't want to know anything about this. You don't want to know who dies. You don't want to know who the killer is. I got your back. Not going to be spoiling that. But of course, let's talk about this movie in non-spoiler details. This, once again, the peace and tranquility is temporarily present on this SSS Karnak. Is destroyed after one of the passengers is found murdered. But our famous detective is entrusted with the important task of identifying which one of the passengers is the killer before they strike once again. It's directed, of course, by Kenneth Branagh, who returns not just as the director, but also the star of this. And it has a great cast like Tom Bateman, Annette Bening, Russell Brand, Gal Gadot, Armie Hammer, Emma McKay, and Letitia Wright. Now, like I said in my intro, I was not a big fan of that original movie. I thought Murder on the Orient Express was a complete disappointment in my book. So even a sequel for this, I really could not get excited about, sadly. And adding in there as well, some of the cast members in here maybe be going through and saying some stuff or doing some things that we're not going to mention in this review, but just a lot of my anticipation for this movie was kind of faltering. The trailers never really grabbed me. And surprisingly, as you see in the title and the thumbnail, this was actually surprisingly good. It wasn't that bad. I was actually genuinely surprised by how much I enjoyed this. Even though I don't think it's a great movie, and I do find the movie to have quite a bit of issues, and we will definitely talk about those. But the one thing I do want to talk about is start with my pros, because I'm all about film appreciation over here. I love talking movies, so that's what I'm going to start talking about. And of course, it starts with Kenneth Branagh's performance. Every single word of dialogue, any monologue, every single moment that the detective opens his mouth, you're going to sit there and you're going to listen because you're fascinated with what he is going to say and how the mystery is going to transcribe after that. And I love how Kenneth Branagh is able to dive into there in such a great way with this wonderful performance. He did the same thing in Murder on the Orient Express. That was the best thing about that movie. And it continues here in spades, actually giving more of an emotional hook for our main character as well that I was actually quite surprised by. And even though I have some issues with the way that they actually transcribed that, I thought it was actually a way better developed character this time around, as well as adding in just every monologue was so well done and acted, and I was just really much impressed with Kenneth Branagh's performance. As well as his direction in here, I actually thought was way more fluid this time around. The way that he shot each and every interrogation scene, to shot the land cow, and everything of that nature on this ship, you did actually feel like you were on the Nile, and I was actually quite surprised. It was so beautiful, and a lot of that has to also go to the cinematography, but the direction of all that was very well done. Not just Branagh that's great in this movie, Gal Gadot is really good, and she's starting to really show her colors as an actress in here. Fia Okinato, I was actually really impressed with as well. Thought she brought such an energy and spur to it. Letitia Wright as her assistant and best friend is also excellent in here, and really much the rest of the cast is serviceable after that. I thought a lot of them were decent in their roles. Nothing that really blew my mind, but those were really much the ones that stuck out to me the most. I also do want to mention, I completely forgot, Tom Bateman is also fantastic in here as well. He is one of the core elements to what makes this film have kind of a soul to it, especially within our main character's life. Before we get to my mixed bag elements of this movie, my last pro is actually the way that you were able to have fun with the mystery involved here. My biggest issue with Murder on the Orient Express was I just couldn't go along with the mystery. For some reason, you couldn't guess or have that guessing game like a lot of murder mysteries do nowadays, and that's the best part about it. In this one, Death on the Nile, even though, and this is where I'm going to mention my mixed bag, my cons. Even though I knew who the hell it was, very early on because of certain indicators, I was very, very happy to see that it still kept me questioning it until maybe the last 30 minutes. And by that last 30 minutes, I was pretty set in stone on who it was, and I was very much just happy. It's going to be different for everyone, but when a film can actually still make me guess, or not in a sense guess, but question my guessing abilities, I have to give a major pros for that. Of course, before we get to my mixed bag, guys, if you guys are new here, I do want to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section. So leave a comment. Did you guys enjoy Murder on the Orient Express? Are you excited for this movie? Let's discuss it all down there, as well as make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so we can keep talking movies over here on a daily basis. Coming into my mixed aspects now, one of the things is that I really appreciate in this is giving a little bit more development to Brana's main character. But sadly, the way that they do it, I actually think was intersected and halted the pacing in the very beginning of the movie. There's a certain segment in the middle where he's going about a little bit more about his past, and I actually think that flashback sequence that the film opens up with would have been grand right then and there to give a little bit more development to our main character. Adding in there as well, other than just that element, my other mixed bag element is, of course, who the killer is. I found it to be pretty obvious from certain indicators in the way that the script was set up. And of course, yes, this is adapted from an Agatha Christie novel, one that is very much famous out there. While I'm not totally versed in it, I know, shocker, young guy, I haven't read Agatha's famous book. I get it. But for me, in that moment, as I'm watching this movie, even before the killing was done, I knew who it was. I knew who was going to commit it, and I knew why. And then I saw it, and I'm like, yep! That's the exact reason. The movie does a lot of setup before that, and that's kind of where I do want to intersect my con. This movie's 2 hours and 7 minutes. It did not need to be 2 hours and 7 minutes. There was probably about 20 to 25 minutes of this entire film you could have cut out. I'm gonna lie, but I did doze off and zone out for probably about 5 to 8 minutes. I'm a very exhausted person. But the fact is, in that very moment, I woke up like, okay, I really gotta pay attention now, Zach. And I'm sitting there and I'm worried that maybe someone had died already or that some interrogations have already gone on. Nothing. Nothing. This is all in the first hour. Definitely did not need that. I feel like there could have been a lot cut out in the beginning to really get us to where this was going. I understand the build-up, but I didn't really feel like that build-up really had meant to anything. But thankfully, as the movie did go on, it got better and better. And that's where I go to say it is surprisingly good in that fact, because if you would have told me from the first hour this is a good movie, I wouldn't believe you. But as the second act goes on and the mystery starts to ensue on who the murderer is, and even though I could guess it, I was still having fun questioning myself and listening to each and every monologue that Brana delivers. I really think it's just the pacing of this movie that overall halts the film from being not just good, but going to that great level. It was a good movie. It was surprisingly good in that fact, and I was entertained. I'll probably never watch Death on the Nile again, but if you're looking for a fun murder mystery, I could easily recommend this one. I think fans of the original Murder on the Orient Express will enjoy this one, but people who were disappointed by it might find some surprises in here. The performances were pretty good overall, even though Brana is the big standout. Again, he was born to play this character. And along the lines, his direction was actually pretty strong in here as well, besides the pacing of the movie, which it dragged way too hard in that first act, and it almost completely lost me. But other than that, I did enjoy Death on the Nile for what it was, cinematography, everything else involved too. So with all that said, I'm going to give Death on the Nile a C+. I was surprised. It was surprisingly good. Not great. Not something I'll watch ever again, but I can easily recommend this one if you're looking for just a fun murder mystery. Overall, guys, let me know down below what your guys' thoughts are on the movie. Again, I gotta hear those. Also, hit that like and subscribe button if you're new here. And of course, guys, if you're interested in seeing movies early, head on over to Sandwich on Films on how to see those. But of course, until next time, stay classy.